The big room was full of strange beings from all over the galaxy. Some had tentacles that moved like water. Others looked like walking crystals that made musical sounds when they talked. A few looked like giant bugs with many eyes. There were creatures made of gas that floated in the air, and others that looked like living plants. Jake Morrison stood at the front of the room. He was the only human in the entire building. His brown hair was messy and he wore simple clothes. He looked normal to himself, but to everyone else in the room he was the most dangerous thing they had ever seen. The Galactic University was the best school in known space. Students came from hundreds of worlds to learn about science, history, and how different species lived. But today was special. Today they would learn about humans for the first time. Professor Zektar stood next to Jake. The tall crystal being was over 8 feet high, and his body made soft ringing sounds when he moved. His voice was like wind chimes when he spoke. "Students, please be quiet," Professor Zektar said. The room became silent right away. "Today we have a very special guest. This is Jake Morrison from the planet Earth. He is the first human to ever teach at our university." Jake waved his hand and smiled. Many students moved back in their seats. His teeth looked sharp to them, even though they were just normal human teeth. A student with blue skin and 4 arms raised one hand. Her name was Kira, and she came from a water world. "Professor Morrison, we studied your planet before you came. Our books say Earth is a Class 12 Deathworld. How did your people live long enough to build spaceships?" Jake laughed softly. The sound made several students jump. They had never heard anything make that noise before. To them, it sounded like a warning growl. "That's a good question, Kira," Jake said. He touched a button and a big picture appeared in the air above him. It showed Earth from space, a blue and white ball floating in the dark. "This is my home. Looks nice, right?" The students looked at the picture. Earth looked peaceful and beautiful. The blue ocean sparkled and white clouds swirled around the planet like soft cotton. "It does look safe," said Drone 942. He was an insect-like being with 6 legs and wings that buzzed when he was nervous. "But our computers say it is very dangerous." "Your computers are right," Jake said, still smiling. "Let me tell you about our weather." He pressed another button. The picture changed to show a huge gray cloud that looked like a spinning tower. It was touching the ground and destroying everything it touched. "This is what we call a tornado," Jake explained. "It's a spinning wind that moves at 200 miles per hour. It can pick up cars, houses, even large trees and throw them around like toys." A student named Whispersoft started to glow with fear. She was made of gas and lived in the clouds of her home world. "Your air attacks you?" "Sometimes," Jake said, like it was no big deal. "We have about 1,000 tornadoes every year. They can appear anywhere, anytime. You might be eating lunch and suddenly need to hide underground because the sky is trying to kill you." The students looked at each other with wide eyes. Some made scared noises in their own languages. Jake changed the picture again. Now it showed a huge wall of water taller than buildings moving toward the shore. "This is a hurricane," he said. "It's like a tornado, but much bigger, and it brings lots of water with it. The winds can be 150 miles per hour, and the waves can be 30 feet high. A hurricane can cover an area bigger than some of your entire planets." "How often do these happen?" asked Scalebright. She was a lizard-like being with green skin that changed color when she was worried. Right now she was turning pale yellow. "Oh, we get several every year," Jake replied. "They mostly happen during our storm season, but they can show up anytime they want. We have learned to watch for them, but sometimes they change direction and surprise us." He clicked again. The new picture showed something that made every student in the room make scared noises. It was a wall of snow and ice moving down a mountain, crushing everything in its path. "This is an avalanche," Jake continued. "Sometimes our mountains get tired of holding up all that snow and ice, so they just let it all fall down at once. It moves at 80 miles per hour and can bury entire towns. But surely you stay away from such dangerous places," asked Shimmer Dance, a being that looked like living light. Jake laughed again, that same sound that made them all nervous. "Actually, we built some of our biggest cities right next to mountains and oceans. We like the view." The students could not believe what they were hearing. Professor Zektar made worried chiming sounds. "There's more," Jake said. "Sometimes the ground under our feet just starts shaking. We call them earthquakes. The whole planet moves and buildings fall down. Cracks open in the ground that can swallow houses." He showed them pictures of broken roads, fallen buildings, and huge cracks in the earth. "How do you sleep at night knowing the ground might move?" asked Bubble Pop. a round creature covered in what looked like soap bubbles. We got used to it, Jake shrugged. We build our houses stronger and we have plans for when it happens. Most of the time we just keep living our lives. Most of the time? Professor Zektar asked. Well, sometimes we have really big earthquakes that knock down whole cities, but we just build them again, usually in the same spot. The room was quiet except for the sounds of scared aliens. Some were making high whistling noises. Others were clicking or humming with worry. Jake looked around the room and saw their frightened faces. He realized they were taking this very seriously. I can see you're all a bit worried, he said gently. But you have to understand, this is just normal weather for us. We don't think of it as scary. It's just Tuesday. Just Tuesday? Squeaked Tiny Wings, a small flying creature no bigger than Jake's hand. We have a saying on Earth, Jake explained. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. Our weather changes all the time. It might be sunny and nice, then suddenly there's a thunderstorm with lightning and hail. Lightning? Several students asked at once. Oh yeah, Jake said. The sky shoots electricity at the ground. Billions of volts. It happens about 100 times every second somewhere on our planet. It can hit you and cook you from the inside out. A collective gasp went through the room. But that's just our atmosphere being playful, Jake continued. Wait until I tell you about our water tomorrow. Your water is dangerous too? Asked Flow River, a being made entirely of liquid. Very dangerous, Jake confirmed. And the day after that, I'll tell you about our animals. The students looked terrified. Animals? Drone 942 buzzed nervously. Oh yes, Jake smiled that scary smile again. Earth has some very interesting animals. Some of them are bigger than your spaceships. Others are so small you can't see them, but they can kill you in hours. The room was completely silent now. Even Professor Zektar had stopped making his chiming sounds. Jake looked at his watch. Well, that's all for today. Tomorrow we'll talk about why our oceans want to kill us. Class dismissed. As the students slowly filed out of the room, they whispered to each other in dozens of different languages. They all had the same thought: how were humans even alive? And more importantly, should they be worried that humans were now traveling through space? Jake packed up his things, whistling a happy tune. He had no idea that his simple explanation of Earth's weather had just terrified the representatives of 200 different alien species. Tomorrow was going to be even more interesting. The next day, the classroom was much more crowded. Word had spread through the entire university about the humans' shocking stories. Students who had never cared about alien biology before now packed into every seat. Some hung from the ceiling lights while others pressed against the walls. Jake Morrison walked into the room carrying a cup of hot coffee. Steam rose from the dark liquid, and several students backed away from him. They had learned that humans consumed liquids hot enough to burn their skin. Good morning, everyone, Jake said cheerfully. I see we have some new faces today. Professor Zektar chimed nervously from the corner. Jake, perhaps we should warn the new students about what they are about to hear. Oh, they'll be fine, Jake replied, taking a sip of his coffee. The sound made Bubble Pop deflate with worry. Yesterday we talked about our weather. Today let's discuss our water. He pressed a button and a huge image appeared above the classroom. It showed massive waves crashing against tall cliffs. The water looked angry and violent as it smashed into the rocks with tremendous force. These are just normal ocean waves, Jake explained. This isn't even a storm. These waves are about 20 feet high and they hit the shore every few seconds all day, every day. Your water is always angry? Asked Flow River. As a liquid being, she was especially interested in Earth's water systems. The ocean is never calm, Jake confirmed. It's always moving, always pushing, always trying to wear down anything in its way. Over millions of years, our oceans carved out entire coastlines just by hitting them over and over again. He clicked to the next image. It showed waves that were as tall as skyscrapers, dark green and white with foam. These are storm waves, Jake continued. They can be 60 feet high or more. They weigh thousands of tons each and move at 30 miles per hour. One wave like this can sink a ship the size of a small city. Scalebright had turned completely white with fear. How do you travel across such dangerous water? Very carefully, Jake laughed. We build big metal ships and hope for the best. Sometimes the ocean wins and the ship goes to the bottom. We lost thousands of ships before we learned how to build them strong enough. Whispersoft flickered with anxiety. But surely you stay away from the water. Actually, we love the ocean, Jake said. We swim in it for fun. The entire room went silent. Several students fainted. You enter the hostile water voluntarily? Drone 942 buzzed in disbelief. Sure, Jake shrugged. It's refreshing, though we do have to watch out for the creatures that live in there. I'll tell you about those tomorrow. He changed the image again. This time it showed something that looked like a white and blue explosion covering an entire mountain. This is what happens to our water when it gets cold, Jake explained. We call it snow and ice. When water freezes, it becomes hard as rock and weighs even more than before. Cold water becomes solid? Asked Meltflow, a being from a very hot planet. At 32 degrees Fahrenheit, yes, Jake confirmed. And when that happens, amazing things occur. The next image showed a glacier, a huge river of ice moving slowly down a valley, crushing everything in its path. This is a glacier, Jake said. It's a river of frozen water that moves very slowly, but nothing can stop it. It can carve through solid rock and push aside mountains. Moving ice? Several students whispered, oh yes, and sometimes big chunks break off and fall into the ocean. We call them icebergs. They're bigger than buildings and they float around the ocean, hidden mostly underwater. Ships have to watch out for them or they'll get sunk. The image changed to show a ship with a huge hole in its side sinking into dark water. This actually happened, Jake explained. A ship called the Titanic hit an iceberg and sank. Over 1,500 people died because they thought their ship was too strong for the ocean to destroy. Professor Zektar made worried chiming sounds. Your water destroys your transportation? Sometimes, Jake admitted. But that's not the worst part about ice and snow. He showed them pictures of entire cities buried under white snow. Only the tops of buildings could be seen sticking out. Sometimes so much snow falls that it buries our towns, Jake explained. We call these blizzards. The wind blows the snow around so hard you can't see anything, and the cold can freeze you solid in minutes. Freeze solid? Asked Shimmer Dance. Your body water turns to ice and you die, Jake said simply. Happens pretty fast if you're not dressed right. He took another sip of his coffee while the students processed this information. But water isn't only dangerous when it's frozen, Jake continued. It's also dangerous when it gets too hot. The next image showed water shooting high into the air from holes in the ground. These are geysers, Jake explained. Underground water gets heated by the hot rock under our planet. When it gets hot enough, it explodes out of the ground like a fountain. The water is hot enough to cook meat instantly. Your ground shoots boiling water at you? Tinywing squeaked. Only in certain places, Jake reassured them. But there are hot springs all over our planet where the water is just below boiling. We actually get in these for fun too. The students couldn't believe what they were hearing. You voluntarily enter water hot enough to cook you? Asked Kira. It feels good on sore muscles, Jake explained. You just have to be careful not to stay in too long or you'll pass out from the heat. He clicked to the next image, which showed the sky filled with jagged white lines that looked like cracks in reality itself. And then there's lightning, Jake said. Remember I mentioned this yesterday? These are electrical bolts that come from our sky during storms. The image showed a lightning bolt hitting a tree, which immediately burst into flames. Each lightning bolt contains about 5 billion joules of energy, Jake explained. That's enough electricity to power a small town for several minutes. The temperature of a lightning bolt is about 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Hotter than some suns, whispered Flow River. The thunder that comes with lightning can be loud enough to damage your hearing. From miles away, Jake continued. And lightning doesn't just hit once. During a big storm, we might get struck hundreds of times in a single hour. He showed them a picture of a field during a thunderstorm, with dozens of lightning bolts hitting the ground at the same time. Sometimes people get hit by lightning and survive, Jake added, but they usually have permanent damage. Burns, memory loss, heart problems. How do you avoid these electrical attacks? Asked Drone 942. We hide inside buildings and hope the lightning hits something else, Jake replied. We put metal rods on top of our houses to attract the lightning away from us. Sometimes it works. Sometimes. Lightning is unpredictable. It might hit the rod, or it might decide to hit you instead. We never know. The room was filled with the sounds of terrified aliens making distressed noises in their various languages. Jake looked at his watch. Oh, we're almost out of time. Let me show you one more thing. The final image showed a wall of water taller than any building rushing toward a city. Cars and houses were being swept away like toys. This is a tsunami, Jake explained. Sometimes our ocean floor moves during an earthquake, and it pushes all the water away from the shore. But then the water comes back all at once in a wave that can be 100 feet high and travel 500 miles per hour. Your earthquakes make your water attack you? Scale Bright had turned so pale she was almost transparent. Everything on Earth is connected, Jake said. When one dangerous thing happens, it usually causes other dangerous things to happen too. How do you live with such constant threats? Asked Professor Zektar. Jake finished his coffee and smiled that terrifying human smile. We learn to work together. When everything is trying to kill you, you need friends to survive. He packed up his things as the students sat in stunned silence. Tomorrow we'll talk about the creatures that live in all this hostile water, Jake announced. Some of them are really interesting. As Jake left the room, the students remained frozen in their seats. Several were making calls to their home planets, warning their governments about what they had learned. Professor Zektar looked around at the terrified faces and wondered if inviting a human to teach had been a mistake. But deep down, he was curious to hear what Jake would say next. After all, if Earth's water was this dangerous, what must its creatures be like? By the third day, the news had spread across the entire galaxy. Students were traveling from other star systems just to hear the humans speak. The classroom was so packed that some aliens were floating outside the windows. Others watched from screens in different buildings. Jake Morrison walked in carrying a sandwich for lunch. Several students noticed he was eating meat and moved even farther away from him. They had learned that humans consumed other living creatures for food. Well, this is quite a crowd, Jake said, looking around at the sea of alien faces. I hope everyone can see the screen. He took a bite of his sandwich. The crunching sound made Tiny Wings hide behind a larger student. Yesterday we talked about our water and weather, Jake continued. Today I want to tell you about the other living things that share our planet with us. He pressed the button and a massive gray shape appeared on the screen. It had black eyes, rows of sharp white teeth, and was swimming through dark blue water. This is a great white shark, Jake explained. It's about 20 feet long and weighs as much as a car. Those teeth you see are razor sharp and they fall out and grow back constantly. A shark can have 3,000 teeth in its mouth at one time. The student stared at the image in horror. It can smell 1 drop of blood in 25 gallons of water, Jake continued. And it can sense the electrical signals from your heartbeat from far away. When it attacks, it moves at 25 miles per hour and bites with the force of 2 tons. This creature hunts humans? Asked Flo River, her liquid body trembling. Sometimes, Jake shrugged. But sharks usually leave us alone. They prefer seals and fish. We only lose about 5 people per year to shark attacks worldwide. Only 5? Squeaked Bubble Pop. That's nothing compared to other animals, Jake replied. Sharks are actually pretty safe compared to most Earth creatures. He clicked to the next image. A massive brown creature with huge claws and thick fur filled the screen. This is a grizzly bear, Jake explained. It weighs 800 pounds and can run 30 miles per hour. Those claws are 4 inches long and can cut through metal. One swipe from a bear's paw can crush your skull. Scale Bright had turned completely clear with fear. Do these bears hunt in groups? No, they're usually alone, which makes them even more dangerous, Jake said. A mother bear with babies will attack anything that comes near, even if it's much bigger than she is. Bears have no fear. The image changed to show something even more terrifying. A huge cat with orange and black stripes was crouched in tall grass, ready to attack. This is a tiger, Jake announced. It can jump 30 feet in one leap, and its bite force is strong enough to crush bones. Tigers are perfect hunting machines. They can sneak up on you without making any sound at all. How do humans defend against such predators? Asked Drone 942, his wings buzzing with anxiety. We learn to use tools, Jake replied. And we stay in groups. But honestly, we don't worry about big predators much anymore. You defeated them? Asked Whispersoft hopefully. No, we just learned to avoid them, Jake explained. The real dangers on Earth are much smaller. He clicked again and the screen filled with tiny flying insects. These are mosquitoes, Jake said. They're smaller than your fingernail, but they kill more humans than every large predator combined. The students looked confused. How could something so small be dangerous? Mosquitoes drink blood, Jake explained. When they bite you, they can pass diseases from one person to another. Malaria, yellow fever, dengue fever. These diseases have killed hundreds of millions of humans throughout our history. Tiny creatures carry death? Asked Shimmer Dance, flickering with worry. The smallest creatures are often the deadliest, Jake confirmed. Let me show you something even smaller. The image changed to show microscopic organisms that looked like tiny aliens themselves. These are bacteria and viruses, Jake explained. They're so small you need special machines just to see them. But they're everywhere. In the air, in the water, on every surface. inside your body right now. Several students immediately started trying to clean themselves. Your body is fighting a war against these microscopic invaders every second of every day. Jake continued. Your immune system is like an army that never sleeps, never takes a break, never stops fighting. We are under constant attack? Asked Professor Zektar. Every human is, Jake nodded. Millions of bacteria and viruses are trying to get inside you and take over your body. Most of the time your immune system wins, but sometimes the germs are stronger. He showed images of people who were very sick, lying in hospital beds. When your immune system loses, you get diseases like pneumonia, tuberculosis, or influenza. The 1918 flu pandemic killed 50 million humans in just 2 years. 50 million, gasped several students at once. One tiny virus, smaller than anything you can see, killed more people than most wars, Jake explained. And we still get new diseases all the time. Our bodies are constantly learning to fight new enemies. The image changed to show something that made every student in the room recoil in fear. It was a spider, black and hairy, with 8 legs and multiple eyes. This is a black widow spider, Jake said calmly. It's about the size of a coin, but its venom is 15 times stronger than a rattlesnake's. Venom? Asked Tiny Wings from behind her hiding spot. Poison that gets injected when they bite you, Jake explained. We have lots of venomous creatures. Snakes, spiders, scorpions, jellyfish, even some frogs and fish. He showed images of each creature as he named them. A snake with its mouth open wide, showing curved fangs. A translucent jellyfish floating in water. A small, brightly colored frog sitting on a leaf. This little frog has enough poison on its skin to kill 10 adult humans. Jake pointed to the colorful frog. The natives in South America used to put this poison on their arrows for hunting. Your own people use animal poisons as weapons? Asked Scalebright. We use whatever works, Jake replied. When everything is trying to kill you, you learn to be creative. He clicked to the next image, which showed a massive creature with long tentacles covered in suction cups. This is a giant squid, Jake announced. It can be 40 feet long and has tentacles covered with hooks and suction cups. It lives in the deep ocean where there's no light at all. How big do your ocean creatures get? Asked Flo River nervously. Much bigger than that, Jake grinned. Blue whales can be 100 feet long and weigh 200 tons. They're the largest creatures that have ever lived on Earth, bigger than any dinosaur. Dinosaurs? Several students asked. Oh, those were the creatures that lived on Earth before humans, Jake explained casually. Giant reptiles that ruled the planet for 165 million years. Some were 40 feet tall and had teeth like daggers. He showed them images of dinosaur skeletons in museums. What happened to these dinosaurs? Asked Professor Zektar. A big rock from space hit our planet and killed most of them, Jake replied. We call it an asteroid impact. It was like a bomb that destroyed most life on Earth. Your planet has been hit by space rocks? Whispersaw flickered frantically. Several times, Jake nodded. We're pretty sure it will happen again someday. We're working on technology to stop the next one. The room was completely silent except for the sounds of terrified aliens, but the good news is that most of these dangerous creatures leave humans alone if we leave them alone, Jake continued. We've learned to live alongside them. How? Asked Drone 942. We study them, we understand them, and we respect them, Jake explained. We know which areas to avoid, what seasons are dangerous, and how to protect ourselves. He took another bite of his sandwich. The important thing to remember is that all these dangerous creatures made us stronger and smarter, Jake said. Every challenge taught us something new. Every threat forced us to work together and find solutions. So you are not afraid of your own planet? Asked Kira. We're careful, Jake corrected. But we're not afraid. Fear would stop us from exploring and learning. Instead, we developed respect for danger and preparation for threats. He looked at his watch. Tomorrow I'll tell you how all these challenges changed human bodies and minds, Jake announced. And you'll understand why we were ready for space travel long before we invented rockets. As Jake packed up his things, the students sat in stunned silence. Many were already making plans to warn their home governments about the humans and their death world. But a few students found themselves feeling something unexpected. They were starting to feel impressed by humans and curious about how they had survived such an impossible world. Jake whistled as he left the room, completely unaware that his simple biology lessons were changing how the entire galaxy thought about Earth and its people. The fourth day brought visitors that made everyone nervous. Ships from the Galactic Council had arrived during the night. Important officials from dozens of worlds were now sitting in the back of the classroom, taking notes and recording everything. Jake Morrison noticed the new faces, but didn't seem worried. He walked in carrying a sports drink and wearing running shoes that looked worn from use. "I see we have some VIPs today," Jake said, nodding toward the council members. "Don't worry, I'll try to keep today's lesson simple." He took a drink from his bottle. The liquid was bright blue, which made several students wonder if humans consumed chemicals for nutrition. "The past 3 days I've told you about all the things on Earth that try to kill us," Jake began. "Today I want to explain what living with all that danger did to us as a species." He pressed the button and an image appeared showing a human runner crossing a finish line. The person was covered in sweat but still moving. "This is a marathon runner," Jake explained. "He just ran 26.2 miles without stopping. That's about 42 kilometers. Humans can run for 42 kilometers, asked Scale Bright, who had turned a surprised shade of green. "Some can run much farther," Jake replied. "The world record for running without stopping is 350 miles. That person ran for 3 days straight." The aliens looked at each other in disbelief. "Why would anyone run for 3 days?" asked Bubble Pop. "Because they wanted to see if they could," Jake shrugged. "But the important thing is that most humans can run for hours if they need to. Our bodies are built for it." He clicked to the next image, which showed the inside of a human leg, with muscles and bones visible. "See these leg muscles? They're designed for long-distance running, and our feet have special springs in them that store energy with each step," Jake explained. "Humans are some of the best long-distance runners on Earth." "You run from predators?" asked Drone 942. "Actually, we run to catch them," Jake corrected. "Before we had weapons, humans would chase animals until they got too tired to run anymore. We call it persistence hunting." "You hunt by being stubborn?" asked Flo River. "Exactly," Jake grinned. "We might not be the fastest or strongest, but we never give up. We just keep going until we win." The image changed to show a human swimmer cutting through water with powerful strokes. "Humans are also excellent swimmers," Jake continued. "We can swim for miles in open ocean. Some people swim across entire channels between countries." "You voluntarily enter the hostile water for long periods?" asked Whispersoft. "We love swimming," Jake confirmed. "It's fun and good exercise. Plus, when you live on a planet that's mostly water, you better learn how to swim or you'll drown." He showed them images of humans climbing mountains, diving deep underwater, and skiing down snowy slopes. "Living on a dangerous planet made our bodies very adaptable," Jake explained. "We can survive in almost any environment on Earth. Hot deserts, frozen mountains, thick jungles, even underwater for short periods." "How is this possible?" asked Professor Zektar. "Our bodies are very good at changing to fit new situations," Jake replied. "When it's hot, we sweat to cool down. When it's cold, we shiver to warm up. When there's less oxygen, our blood makes more red cells to carry what we can get." The image changed to show people living in different environments around the world. "Humans live everywhere on Earth," Jake pointed out. "In places so hot they could kill most aliens, and places so cold that water turns solid. We've learned to live in deserts, mountains, islands, even in places where the sun doesn't shine for months." "Your bodies adapt to different worlds?" asked a council member from the back. "Our bodies adapt to different conditions," Jake corrected. "But more importantly, our minds learn to solve problems." He clicked to show images of human tools, from simple stone axes to complex machines. "When we couldn't run fast enough, we invented wheels," Jake explained. "When we couldn't fly, we built airplanes. When we couldn't breathe underwater, we made diving equipment." The images showed the progression of human technology over thousands of years. "Every problem on Earth taught us to think differently," Jake continued. "Dangerous animals taught us to make weapons. Harsh weather taught us to build shelters. Diseases taught us medicine." "You learned from threats?" asked Shimmer Dance. "Every threat is a lesson," Jake nodded. "Every time something tries to kill us, we figure out how to stop it from happening again." He showed them images of human cities with their tall buildings and complex systems. "Look at our cities," Jake said. "We built them to protect us from everything Earth could throw at us. Earthquake-resistant buildings, flood barriers, storm shelters, disease-free water systems." "You have conquered your world's hostility?" asked a council member. "We've learned to work with it," Jake replied. "We can't stop earthquakes, but we can build buildings that don't fall down. We can't stop storms, but we can predict them and get to safety. The image changed to show humans working together during a natural disaster, helping each other and sharing resources. But the most important thing Earth taught us was that we need each other, Jake explained. When everything is dangerous, you can't survive alone. Cooperation? Asked Tiny Wings, peeking out from her hiding spot. Humans are social creatures, Jake confirmed. We work in groups, share information, and help each other survive. One human alone on Earth would die quickly, but humans working together can survive anything. He showed images of human families, communities, and rescue workers. When disasters happen, humans from all over the world come to help, Jake explained. We share food, medicine, tools, and knowledge. We take care of children who lost their parents. We rebuild homes for people who lost everything. Your species cares for all members? Asked Kira. We try to, Jake said. We learned that everyone has value. The sick person today might be the one who saves everyone tomorrow. The child who seems weak might grow up to solve problems no one else can solve. The image changed to show human scientists, doctors, teachers, and artists. Our dangerous world forced us to become very creative, Jake continued. We had to invent new ways to survive, new ways to communicate, new ways to understand our world. This creativity helped you develop technology? Asked Professor Zektar. Our creativity helped us develop everything, Jake replied. Art, music, literature, science, philosophy. When you're always facing death, you learn to appreciate life and beauty. He showed them examples of human art and music from around the world. We created beauty in the middle of danger, Jake explained. We found reasons to hope even when things looked hopeless. We learned to celebrate life even when death was always nearby. You found joy in a death world? Asked Flow River in amazement. We found joy because it was a death world, Jake corrected. When every day might be your last, every day becomes precious. The room was quiet as the aliens processed this information. So when we finally developed space travel, Jake continued, we brought all these lessons with us. We knew how to adapt to new environments. We knew how to work together. We knew how to solve problems and never give up. He clicked to show images of human space stations and colonies on other worlds. To us, space wasn't scary, Jake explained. Compared to Earth, space was actually pretty safe. No storms, no earthquakes, no predators, no diseases. Space is safer than your home world? Asked a council member in disbelief. Much safer, Jake confirmed. The vacuum of space can kill you, but at least it's predictable. On Earth, you never know what's going to try to kill you next. He finished his drink and looked around the room. Tomorrow, I'll tell you the most important thing Earth taught us, Jake announced, and you'll understand why humans aren't dangerous to other species. As Jake left the room, the council members immediately began urgent discussions. They were starting to understand that humans weren't just survivors of a death world. They were the products of the ultimate training ground, and they had learned lessons that could benefit the entire galaxy.